On July 25, 2000, passengers at Paris's Charles de Gaulle Airport watched in horror as a supersonic Concorde exploded off the runway in flames. With a raging fire and two failing engines, the pilots battled to keep their unmanageable plane up in the air, hurtling along just above the ground in a desperate race against time. It was an impossible race for them to win. What happened, and how did the plane crash? All will be answered, but you have to watch the complete video. Hello and welcome to Plane Crashes Explained, where we discuss some of the most mind-blowing reasons and facts behind the most heinous plane crashes. Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon so you don't miss future updates. Without further ado, let's get straight into this. Air France Flight 4590 was an international charter flight operated by Air France that flew from Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris to John F. Kennedy International Airport in New York using an Aerospatiale BAC Concorde. The aircraft serving the flight ran over debris on the runway during takeoff on Tuesday, July 25, 2000, blowing a tire and hurling chunks of the tire into the underside of the left wing and landing gear bay with great force. The fuel tank built inside the left wing was nearly full with little ullage. When the tire fragments hit the wing, the tank ruptured, releasing a large amount of fuel. Tire fragments severed wiring in the landing gear bay, preventing the landing gear from retracting. Fuel from the ruptured tank ignited, causing engines 1 and 2 to lose thrust. The aircraft could not be controlled due to a lack of thrust, high drag from the extended landing gear, and fire damage to the flight controls, and it crashed into a hotel in nearby Gonesse 2 minutes after takeoff. All 109 people on board died, as did 4 people in the hotel. 6 other people in the hotel were critically injured. That day, the wind at the airport was light and variable, and the cockpit crew reported an 8-knot tailwind as they lined up on runway 26R. The DC-10 involved in the accident sequence, N13067 Continental Airlines Flight 55, a McDonnell Douglas DC-1030, took off from the same runway for Newark International Airport and lost a titanium alloy strip that was part of the engine cowl, identified as a wear strip about 435 millimeters long, 29 to 34 millimeters wide, and 1.4 millimeters thick. During its takeoff run, the Concorde ran over this piece of debris, cutting its right front tire and sending a large chunk of tire debris into the underside of the left wing at an estimated speed of 140 meters per second. It did not directly puncture any fuel tanks, but it generated a pressure shock wave that ruptured the number 5 fuel tank at its weakest point, just above the undercarriage. An electric arc most likely ignited the leaking fuel gushing out of the bottom of the wing in the landing gear bay or contact with hot engine parts. Both engines 1 and 2 surged and lost all power, but engine 1 gradually recovered over the next few seconds. In response to a fire warning in the captain's command, the flight engineer shut down engine 2 and created a large plume of flame. Gilles Logelin, an air traffic controller, noticed the flames before Concorde took off and informed the flight crew. However, the aircraft had passed V1 speed, so an aborted takeoff is considered unsafe. The plane did not gain enough airspeed with its 3 remaining engines because damage to the landing gear bay door prevented the undercarriage from retracting. The aircraft could not climb or accelerate, and its speed gradually decreased during its brief flight. The fire damaged the inner elevon of the left wing, which melted due to the extremely high temperatures. The right wing lifted from the asymmetrical thrust, banking the aircraft to more than 100 degrees. The crew attempted to level the aircraft by reducing power on engines 3 and 4, but they lost control due to deceleration and the plane stalled, crashing into the Hotelissimo Le Relais Bleu hotel. A passing driver captured video of the burning plane on takeoff and the aftermath of the crash. The crew attempted to divert to nearby Paris Le Bourget Airport, but accident investigators determined that a safe landing was highly unlikely given the aircraft's flight path. The crash killed all of the passengers and crew, as well as 4 Hotelissimo employees. German football manager Rudi Fasnacht and German trade union member Christian Goetz were among the passengers, most of whom were German tourists en route to New York for a cruise. Before the crash, Concorde was regarded as one of the world's safest aircraft. The model's career was effectively ended as a result of the crash. All Air France Concordes were grounded a few days after the crash, pending an investigation into the cause of the crash and potential solutions. The Concorde operation had been a money-losing venture for Air France, claiming that the plane was kept in service as a matter of national pride. British Airways claimed that its Concorde operations were profitable. According to Jock Lowe, a Concorde pilot, the British Airways Concorde operation made a net profit of around £30 million per year until the crash of Air France Flight 4590 in Paris. After a £17 million safety improvement service, commercial service was resumed in November 2001, and the type was retired in 2003. The Bureau of Inquiry and Analysis for Civil Aviation Safety, France's Accident Investigation Bureau, conducted the official investigation. The aircraft was over the maximum takeoff weight for ambient temperature and other conditions, and 810 kilograms over the maximum structural weight, loaded so that the center of gravity was aft of the takeoff limit, according to the post-accident investigation. During taxiing, fuel transfer left the number 5 wing tank 94% full. The left main landing gear is normally aligned by a 30-centimeter spacer, which had not been replaced after recent maintenance. The BEA concluded that this did not contribute to the accident. The final report was released on January 16, 2002. The BEA also concluded that the aircraft was 810 kilograms heavier than its maximum safe takeoff weight. This additional weight did not affect takeoff performance. After reaching takeoff speed, the number 2 wheel's tire was severed by a metal strip that had fallen from the thrust reverser cowl door of the number 3 engine of a Continental Airlines DC-10 that had taken off from the same runway 5 minutes earlier. This wear strip was replaced during a C-check in Tel Aviv, Israel on June 11, 2000, and again on July 9, 2000 in Houston, Texas. The strip installed in Houston was neither manufactured nor installed following the manufacturer's specifications. The plane was in good condition and the crew was well trained. The landing gear that later failed to retract had not previously demonstrated any serious issues. Despite the crew's training and certification, there was no plan in place for the simultaneous failure of 2 engines on the runway, which was deemed highly unlikely. Aborting the takeoff would have resulted in a high-speed runway excursion and the collapse of the landing gear, causing the aircraft to crash. While 2 of the engines were malfunctioning and 1 was shut down, the damage to the plane's structure was so severe that the crash would have been unavoidable even if the engines had normally been running. British investigators and former French Concorde pilots re-evaluated 2 factors previously determined by the BEA to be insignificant to the crash: unbalanced weight distribution in the fuel tanks and loose landing gear. They accused Air France of negligence after concluding that these factors caused the plane to veer off course on the runway, lowering its takeoff speed below the critical minimum. British investigators discovered a spacer missing from the bogey beam on the left-hand main landing gear while examining the wreckage in a warehouse. Because a strut could wobble in any direction with 3 degrees of movement, the landing gear alignment was thrown off. The uneven fuel load exacerbated the problem on the 3 remaining tires on the left gear. Drag marks left on the runway by the Concorde's left rear landing wheels indicate that the plane was veering to the left as it approached takeoff. The Concorde traveled further down the runway than usual due to the veer because it could not gain sufficient takeoff speed. The airplane hit the metal strip after passing its usual takeoff point on the runway. At one point, it approached an Air France Boeing 747 carrying then-French President Jacques Chirac. At Gonesse, a memorial to the crash victims was constructed. The Gonesse monument is made of transparent glass with a piece of an aircraft wing protruding through it. Another memorial, a 6,000 square meter one surrounded by a topiary planted in the shape of a Concorde, was built in 2006 near Charles de Gaulle Airport in Mitry-Mory. The French Concorde was supposed to be the fastest commercial airliner, but it proved to be the most dangerous. Why do so many people have to die so that humans can learn from their mistakes? Why are people this careless? That's human nature, supposedly. One has to die for the betterment of the other. What do you think the authorities would have done to avoid the accident? Comment your answer below. Leave a like if you liked what you saw, and we'll be back with another airplane crash video. Thanks for watching.